Actually, I have an interesting story to share where so this guy within the go-to-market automation space based in Europe, his prompts for writing cold emails for his clients, right? You want to take a guess at how long the prompt is?
I don't know. 1,000 words, 800 words, 500 words. I don't know.
35 pages. 35 pages. That whole thing that is how long his prompt is. I think sometimes we're used to the idea of 1 page is a very long prompt. No, this guy's prompt is 35 pages long. But because of that, it is very, very good at doing what it does. I think that's the kind of work that we're talking about, where like you said, people think that one question and then the prompt that they get, that's as good as it gets. No. But even 3 paragraphs, like I've seen the extent to which it can go. 3 paragraphs, like even for myself, I don't do 3 paragraphs anymore. Mine is pretty long, but it's not 35 pages long. Like that's the kind of prompt engineering I've seen in this space. So yeah.
I had this recommendation to copy and paste good prompts that I've done before so that I can put it on the list and then use it for future use. And then for my work, I also do a lot of cold outreach. So I also try to list down my prompts so that I can reuse those prompts. And I don't know, what's your suggestion or advice on prompt engineering? What are the best practices of prompts out there that you can recommend?
Best practices on prompts. Okay, this is interesting. Number one is don't do all of the prompt engineering yourself. Right? What I do, especially when I build prompts to qualify companies based on certain criteria, you don't have to write the prompts yourself. Use AI. So for, right now, I'm Claude Pro. I forgot what the tier is called, but I use Claude to get me the base prompts. Right? So I ask it to just write for me the entire prompt. Okay. So that's part one. Don't do all of the prompt engineering yourself. Second is understand the concept of system prompt versus user prompt. This has been especially critical too, and I cannot recommend it enough. System prompt versus user prompt. So for those who may not know, your system prompt basically is you are telling the AI who they are, and then user prompt is you tell the AI what you want them to do, right? Because I think sometimes we sort of combine those two into the user prompt. What I always do now is system prompt, user prompt. System prompt, I am very clearly defining to the AI, okay, this is what you are. You are, for example, right? You are an experienced e-commerce analyst who has 20 years of experience working in blah, 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 right? Usually it's a lot longer than that, but that's an example.
Yep.
User prompt then is, I want you to analyze this e-commerce company and tell me these characteristics and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's one thing that I do. So that's the second point, right? System prompt versus user prompt. The third one is, before you can start fully depending on your prompt, take the time to come up with manual examples. I think because we are so used to how fast AI is, we don't want to put in the work to get to give it proper examples. And I cannot recommend it enough. Take the time to properly write out examples first, even if it's manually written, because you need to let the AI know what is good and what is not good, right? And the best way to do that is you need to start with those manual examples first. Quick case in point, but I have a workflow now that automates LinkedIn content creation. Not fully, but a heavy part of it. Before I built it, before I started fully using it, I wrote all of my posts myself. I wrote everything out myself, because only then can I say, okay, this has my stamp of approval, right? This is what I want it to be. Now I can take this example, put it into AI. Right? So that's very important. Take the time to come up with the manual examples first. Even if it's cold emails, write the cold emails yourself first. Then you can put it to AI as examples. Yeah.
Question: how would you know what you're doing now is good enough?
That depends on industry, I would say. Because if we're talking about cold emails, you as a person, you know what's good and what's not good, right? Because you can see in terms of what's the open rates, what's the click rates, what's the click-through rates, how many people reply, right? So these are things that you yourself can define as a person. Okay, this is what's good to me. Put it into AI. You might look at another example and say, okay, this might not be as effective. I'm not going to put this as an example to AI.
Got it. Yeah, this is thought in my head earlier, but I'll just put it out now. Like in Singapore, there's so much emphasis from top down, right? From government saying that how AI is so important. And also the government is using taxpayers' money to invest in AI capabilities in many ways. But even before this conversation, and even now that we speak halfway, it's becoming even more clear that there is this soft layer of training, teaching the population in Singapore to be proficient, to make the best use of the AI tools out there. right? It's one thing to have the tools available on your fingertips, but it's another to be able to have best practices to make the best use. You give that clear as an example, but not every small business would have that someone capable to make the best out of it. I think similar, right? As a country, as a market, as a national level, that it's one thing to spend money and invest, but where's the soft layer of teachers, trainers, content creators to really teach what are best practices out there, right? I mean, those 3 tips that you gave earlier, it's just so much more valuable than what I could do, in my past work so far. So I just want to put it out there that I think that's my observation. Yeah, and also as what you alluded earlier, right? You have great tools out there, but you do have someone that is well trained to make the best use of this software, then the ROI could also be limited.
Yeah.
I want to squeeze your brain for one more advice or tip for prompt engineering.
Of course.
Give me one more. I'll share one, right, where you're thinking.
Yeah.
I come across this tip is that similar to don't do it on your own. Basically, ask the LLMs, large language model, in the form of ChatGPT, Claude, or Copilot. Ask them to suggest a prompt. Say, I want to send email to these cold clients, or I want to send cold emails to this 5 leads that I've got in this particular industry. Suggest a prompt that would allow me to generate an effective email, right? So it sounds very simple. And then the next step is say that. So of course, Copilot will say whatever, right, prompts. Then the thing that the user should do is to say, assume that is a level 1 prompt.
Yes. Yeah.
Give me a level 4 prompt.
Yeah. Yes. I've
right.
done that a few times.
So okay, then the question is like, I don't know why 1 and 4, right? Why cannot be level 1 and level 5 or level 10, But 4 could be an arbitrary number. Maybe 10 you need very powerful, I don't know, AI models or whatever. So that was something that I used earlier this week, in fact. So you come across this as well?
I did. In fact, no, I've used it myself as well. There was a time when I was trying to come up with a qualification prompt. And so it gave me a very basic prompt, and I said, you know what? This is level 1, give me level 4. Suddenly the output, man, was all the way.
Yeah, give me level 4.
And now that we're on the topic, I did actually think of another tip. Very important one. I gotta this is very important to me. I gotta put it out there, which is you need to experiment with different AI models. Right? I have seen a lot of people use ChatGPT for everything. I can think of a few names in my head right now. People who use ChatGPT for every single thing, for content writing, for general, like insight, fact finding. That should not be the way. Every AI model, especially with a lot of experimentation, right? I've realized that every AI model has its own best use case and stay away from that use case, right? So, right now, if I had to give some examples, Claude Anthropic is really good for content creation. And by that, I mean written content creation. It is really good for that. In fact, comparing it to Gemini, comparing it to ChatGPT, OpenAI, or even Perplexity, Claude is the best for content creation. So right now, my content creation workflow, I use Claude for it, just all the time. If I wanted to do fact finding, right? If I want the AI to go to the web and get me facts, I use Perplexity. I don't use Claude. I don't use ChatGPT for that. I straight away go to Perplexity, ask it. I'll ask it a very fact-based question, right? Can you tell me about this event, for example? And then Perplexity goes out and finds those facts. Perplexity is really good at that, right? I don't use any AI model for that. If I want AI to do basic website analysis, right? So to act as an agent for me to go to a website, understand the contents on it, I either use Gemini or I use OpenAI. Although right now I'm leaning a bit more towards OpenAI just because I feel like Gemini's model might be a little bit confused. OpenAI 4.1 has been really good at understanding what's on a website, right? So I think that's the general idea, which is people need to know, number one, that you cannot, AI is not a one size fits all kind of thing. It is not, right? And then number two, you need to inherently understand, if I want to do something, what's the best AI model for this? Because at some point, right, depending on whether you're going to use this as an employee or as a business, but at some point, people need to know, right? If people come to you for questions about AI, you need to be able to say, no, I think you should use this. I think you should use this, right? And that's really valuable.